Good morning once more, Lagos. You're listening to Smooth Breakfast with Valentine.
And with Folu.
Right now it's 7:32, so officially we are inside the segment where we go through detailed newspaper analysis. It's called Freshly Pressed 981. In the studio with us, we have got our analyst. Very fantastic Friday. Tunde Okufi is in the studio. Good morning, Tunde.
Morning, Folu.
Excellent. Great to have you here. And we've got Nwaji as well, aka at the corporate MC. Good morning, Nwaji.
Good morning, Folu, and good morning, Lagos.
Hey, thank you for joining us. All right, Lagos, different ways to communicate with us this morning.
You can send us messages through Twitter. Use the hashtag FreshlyPressed981, and our Twitter handle is @smooth981FM. On WhatsApp, for messages only, please send your messages through WhatsApp to 0809-444-0981.
Let's start with our first story today, shall we? 800 billion naira subsidy debt is what we're looking at. Nigerian government and fuel marketers have in court reached an agreement, according to the Premium Times. Now, what that means is you'll recall that a few days ago they'd issued a 7-day ultimatum to the government to pay that 800 billion naira subsidy debt or risk the shutdown of all depots. The government had offered 340 billion. They shut it down. But there was a statement released on Thursday by the Finance Ministry that says, you know, they've agreed on settlement terms. What the terms are, we don't know. What we do also know is that DAPMA say that they're in phone conversation, or rather there's been a telephone meeting with the government. It's still ongoing. Nothing conclusive has happened yet. What's your take on what's going on so far?
So this has been an ongoing serialized story, you know, so today's episode is rather short, but if you look at the entire episode, it's been rumbling for months, and it has all the trappings of a true Niger story. You know, there claims of an agreement have been reached. There's a counter claim that no agreement has been reached.
Yes.
You know, there are ultimatums flying up and down, and then everything is shrouded in mystery. So it's classically Nigerian. But it's unfortunate we're here every year. You know, it's a yearly cycle. We're coming up to the end of the year, and it's that time of year when the market is. Can make their voice heard, depending on which side you stand on, saying that you have a legitimate claim. Others will say it's that time of year where they squeeze the government.
Yeah, I mean, and I just have to ask, because every time we come around this story, whether it's every year, every half year, sometimes quarterly, it really depends.
Yeah, it really depends on the mood.
Year in review, right? We keep shying away from this issue of complete liberalization of that sector.
Exactly.
Do you think we're going to have an administration, because we are coming up to an election year, that perhaps we'll start taking this more seriously, that we'll get to this place where we actually just liberate the space and allow market forces to control our fuel, our petrol?
Which is what I was going to go to next. We remember when this administration initially took over, and it was no more subsidies, we're cutting this out. Until gradually,
it was a great announcement.
Exactly, it was an announcement. You know, until gradually payments started creeping in. You know, initially called different things, they're not called subsidy. Then eventually they started calling it, subsidy. Right. So this is where we are. Why? And it's a valid question. Why is it that no government seems to have? I don't want to say the will, but potentially the ability or the backbone to take away subsidies. The truth is, the simple, answer is this government is more populist, right? And I mean, from Buhari's antecedents, not just in this current administration, but in his previous time, you know that he would be he's wary to do anything that will have an adverse impact on the populace, and that's generally the biggest argument. They say it would affect the populace or the common man adversely, while there is a counter argument that continuing to pay subsidy robs the country of the funds to do things that are important to the common man as well. So it all depends on the perspective that you take. And you look at, so generally every government has, up until now, shied, and even including now, shied away from taking the hard decisions. But it's required, we need to sort it out. The things that will, okay, so let's say perhaps it's step by step. We need to get refineries up and running. We need local productions where it should be, such that we can ease away from this and minimize the effects. I believe that's the plan. So we are where we are.
In the meantime,
still
being kicked down the road.
In the meantime, fire's being shot. Get prepared for scarcity.
Thank you very much for that. Up next, again, in speaking of things that we continuously revisit, Ajaokuta Steel is back in here. Nwaji, as you shake your head. From the Punch newspaper, the reps have approved the reversal of Ajaokuta privatization. They're asking the EFCC to investigate and prosecute the owners of the privatized company, and they've asked the federal government to bar them from further conducting businesses in Nigeria. Now, also something I find interesting is the reps saying that the federal government needs to demonstrate a strong political will. Are the reps not part of the federal? I don't know. Are they not government? Is it not government? Do they operate outside of the government? What are your thoughts on
maybe
this?
maybe they're specifically referring to the presidency. I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt. So we need to choose those words actually very carefully when they say the government.
Because we're not government is pointing at the government for problems.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
there's fire on the mountain, but no one seems to be on the run.
Look, this Ajaokuta thing, I just wonder what it's all about at the end of the day. It's actually getting very confusing. I mean, this is probably the 4th time that we've covered this story with regards to things that just happen. It's like an ever-changing story that always evolves. I mean, Folu, this is the 40th year since this particular thing was built, and it hasn't produced an inch of steel to today. And the capacity breakdowns with regards to what they can actually do is actually quite shocking. So I honestly don't know what this particular initiative that the reps are indicating with regards to approval of the reversal of privatization or whatever the case may be, and how the government needs to show political will to make it happen. I honestly don't know. It's getting tiring when you look at the amount of time and energy that has gone into deliberating and getting this thing off the ground. I honestly don't know what needs to be done. You know, are the reps indicating that the presidency needs to just maybe take control of this thing, put some money behind it, give some very specific deadlines so that it can actually get up and running, or are they trying to say that it's this particular individual's fault? I mean, it's a very confusing situation, and nobody seems to want to take control of it. And like I said, this is the 40th year since this particular steel mill was built, and nothing has actually happened.
I like that you mentioned that no one seems to want to take control of it, because you know, if they're asking, because it seems as though the House of Representatives are asking the federal government to revive the steel company with loot recovered from former military dictator. Now, if you are saying already that the company that was running it was not doing it in the right way, are you reviewing as the House of Representatives to say who is the best person to run? Because then shouldn't we be looking at a management change then saying, okay, this is what management should be doing? How do you expect them to just throw money at
that's
the
my point.
problem?
It doesn't make any sense. So when you say reversal of the privatization, what does that actually mean? So is it like, to your exact point, is it that the management of the steel company was not doing what they were supposed to do? So do we now change it? If you want to bring it back into the public hold, then you need to make sure you set up some sort of concession to be able to manage this if you're going to put some money behind it. So it's kind of an empty statement. It just doesn't, it's just more bluster. I don't get it.
And it almost seems like the House of Representatives members are passing the buck to the executive.
That's my point. It's
I guess what it is no one knows what it means, but it is provocative.
So that's why it's a story.
Kanye West. All right. Let's keep it moving. He's just involved in everything. From the NCC now, Vanguard newspaper, the NCC are accusing the state ministries, department, and agencies of economic sabotage. They say that they are hampering the deployment of critical ICT infrastructure for national development. How do they claim to be doing this? Well, according to stakeholders of the parliament in Kogi, they're saying they've accused the states of imposing inordinate charges for building approvals and rights of ways, and saying that they frequently interfere with the operations of such infrastructure by shutting them down at will, which of course has a knock-on effect on the citizenry. Tunde, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's another Nigerian story.
It does sound very familiar, unfortunately.
Rent seeking.
Yes.
Bottom line.
Yes.
You know. And it's unfortunate. Look, why? So you said it. So inordinate charges from states, and it varies. They should have something that's standard across states. Yeah, these guys have spent a lot of money, paying for licenses, and their projections around, revenues that they make so that they can recoup on their investment. Things like this affects the entire system, affects the operators and their ability to reinvest in the ecosystem. It affects those who need the service, and it even affects people within the states. So states it's a balance. They should really look at this. We do things without a proper view to, and we say we're open for business. We don't do things that are.
It doesn't help with the ease of doing business, because
doesn't.
this is the reality. You have business owners who are struggling. They're doing their best within an environment that is already difficult, and then periodically you've just got agents of government that just show up and claim certain taxes and say you've got to pay this right now on the spot, or shut things down otherwise. So it feels very high-handed. It's
Absolutely.
blackmail.
Yes.
The question is, how do you then prevent, or going forward, how do we create a system where such things can be checkmated, at least reported and dealt with, maybe not stopped outright from the beginning, but dealt with. If you got an agent or an agent of government that's shown up at your business doorstep and said, I know these and these and these taxes, they don't give you an opportunity to explain, they're not waiting for you to get whatever documents in place, they're just shutting you down. How do we look to curbing that?
And essentially amounts to, in many ways, double levies of taxation because you're paying at the federal and
and no one is refunding your money when they find out.
When they find out, exactly. So it's, I mean, to curb it, it's what's happened here is to have these, conversations, have these forums, get places in place, bring people into a room and say, look, let's have some sort of understanding. In the absence of laws to protect you, that's about the only way to work, unfortunately. And that's where we are, but it needs to change. Like the story points out, it has cost the economy, potentially billions of naira.
All right, and very quickly we move on to our next story today. Staying with you, from the Guardian, a court has ordered the arrest of a Rivers APC chieftain for alleged attempted murder. Very worrying stuff. Chidi Lloyd is who we're talking about, the Director General of Tunde Okufi Campaign Organization. He's been, the court has ordered his arrest. This is because himself and his counsel were missing from court anyways, where he's already in the middle of trial, his attempted murder trial. Now, I mean, this is worrying on so many levels because this is also the former majority leader of the State House of Assembly. We know the incidence of the level of violence we see in that part of the country, and the fact that this would not be the first person. This would not be the first time that he's been in this position, and now he's in the wind, as they say. Are we really serious about curbing violence, especially in Rivers, in the south or anywhere in the country, really, when we see people who are involved in government? Because this is government now.
I mean, with the way our politics is played, I mean, I don't think we can arrive at a place where we will be devoid of violence. And I mean, sorry, we missed the bus of preventing thuggery and thugs into politics. I mean, it's where we are.
Can we run and catch the bus, maybe?
No, well.
What can we do as the police officers? Do just roll out the spikes and stop the bus?
Let's hope. We can hope.
Sorry, where was that?
They roll out the spikes now. They stop the bus. They just put it under your car. No,
in real life.
Oh, you have not seen it.
In real life.
Okay, you're not a good citizen. What? You try to drive off? It makes you spike, but it's spike.
Oh, the wood things.
It will stop you.
So man, it's Port Harcourt here. This is Rivers State and APC. Yeah, so I mean, in summary, that's the entire story, right? Now, the former majority leader, obviously, aka or i.e. former PDP, so he definitely has a case to answer in the eyes of Rivers PDP. He left the party, championing and running the party of another candidate. You're the majority. It's obviously you have some clout, so you left the party. You're running your position. This is the long-running, do or die affair in our politics. Rivers State PDP against APC.
Now, please note that this murder charge, by the way, for the information of people listening out there, was the result of a fracas on the floor of the state legislature in 2013, where he slammed the mace onto his colleague, Michael Ajaokuta.
You remember that video?
So that which is my next.
He killed someone
which is my next point. Did he kill him?
No, attempted.
He didn't kill him. I mean, the truth is, if it's for this, then a bunch of lawmakers on this particular table. You get. Now, I would say, what condition is the guy in? He probably may have suffered a concussion, slight or heavy concussion. A few stitches, perhaps. Maybe not. Wouldn't assault be a more appropriate charge than attempted?
Have you seen the mace?
Have you seen the?
No, I haven't.
Have you seen the video?
I haven't seen the video.
No.
I've seen the mace.
He knocked him into next year.
Excuse me.
It's not made of
It's
styrofoam.
like using a hammer and telling me it's assault.
No, it's not made of styrofoam.
No.
It was actually.
But
All right.
thank you for that.
It just looks, like maybe they're going. Well, my point is they're going for the heaviest charge possible.
Because if
It was a heavy
it was a heavy thing. If it was a chair, it's very different to a mace, right? Because we've seen chairs. Chairs are. A mace is a weapon. I mean.
I wonder why. I think we should do away with it in our special conditions for our own politics.
I'm not sure you're trying to be nice or sarcastic at the same time.
Anyways, we got messages coming through. Petrus from Papa very quickly says, "There's nothing more populist in this government. Campaign promises have actually been kept."
And then Super Kunle sent this one. It says, "I already pay taxes that is mismanaged and swiped into private pockets. on subsidized fuel will be double jeopardy for my wallet.
Okay, I see.
That's a feeling.
And Johnson Oga from Ugudu says subsidy matters should not be an issue in Nigeria because the NNPC receives a subsidized quantity of crude monthly, which they're supposed to refine and sell locally. But where is it?
Where?
Regards, says Johnson.
Thank you, Johnson. Moving on to this next story now from Punch newspaper. Representatives cancel May 29th and approve June 12th as Democracy Day. They have deleted the May 29th from the Public Holidays Act and replaced it with a new date. They said this move actually was sponsored by Messrs. Edward Pwajok and Kayode Oladele. And the amendment bill, they said, had on November 22, if you recall, narrowly escaped being dropped at the House when members debated it on a second reading. What are your thoughts on this?
On what? Sorry, just the change of date.
Yes.
Okay. My only thing
Is
is
it
this.
necessary?
Okay, my only thing is this, right? Because
Well-
by you indicating that you are doing it for the reasons you're doing it, which has to do with honoring that particular day back in 1993, I believe, when Abiola won the fairest elections that we had in this country. So I guess the question now becomes is that are we as a country now admitting outrightly that this man should have been president and he was robbed of it? That's number one, which is the conversations that happen with regards to what's going to happen with this. So with that, does he now get some kind of, I don't know,
Posthumous.
exactly, recognition or maybe a compensation or something of that nature. So we just have to be asking ourselves a lot of questions regarding what does this mean. So does he now get recognized at some point as a Nigerian president?
And by extension, his family.
And by extension, his family and maybe other things that come with that. So that's the only essence I get behind it. I thought it was a political move to more or less garner support from certain regions of the country by moving that particular day to June 12th. And I think it gets a little bit confusing because May 29th is literally the day that we transitioned from military government to civilian rule, May 29th, 1999.
Yes.
So that is actually the Democracy Day. June 12th was an election day. So I don't know how that now constitutes the current
Which was the
dispensation.
argument of the
Yeah, so
some
it just
members of the House.
I don't know if it's necessary. I guess okay, fine. If they want to do it that way, that's fine. I guess June 12th now becomes the day, May 29th. So I guess what now happens, because for quite a long time I've been enjoying the May 27th Children's Day and May 29th Democracy Day.
Yeah, an extension
Kind
of
of back to
Republic
back,
Day.
Because my kids
kind of
always
back
had
to
some time off, so I guess that's kind of killed now. So yeah, that's the only thing I think is going to.
Today you had something to add to that.
No, I just wanted to say that, you know, in '99, this was the argument as well. And the argument at that time was we arrived at May 29th as Democracy Day as a direct consequence of Abiola's struggle. So therefore, he, you know, that day that signified
Equally recognized him.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So it should have been on that day was the thinking at the time, but I guess people just wanted, it was too close to the time that we wanted to steer away from a politically charged.
June 12th is
Yes.
very sentimental.
Yes.
Oh,
In
yes.
Nigeria, we love public holidays.
Oh, yes.
Moving on now to the next story from Punch newspaper. Representatives split over disbandment of Rivers security outfits. Remember how we discussed this on this show just a few days ago.
Yeah.
You know, talking about the group that the army tagged as an illegal security outfit. Well, the members of the House of Representatives were divided yesterday on the floor of the House over that disbandment, and they said, in fact, a member from the River State, Kingsley Chinda, moved the motion in plenary urging the House to seek clarification on the Army's invasion of the training ground. They said that it's a legal, rather the group is coming together for a legal cause, for a very, they said it's a useful thing for them. They said,
Sorry, in Rivers.
in Rivers State, exactly,
We're
yeah.
back to Rivers.
I'm just confirming
Yeah,
the
yeah,
They
location.
said it's a River State Neighborhood Safety Corps agency, you know, set up to protect and train them, just forestall violence and all that. But then the dissenting views for the majority leader, Femi Gbajabiamila, he stated that it was wrong for a state to create a security outfit for defense, which he pointed out was an exclusive right of the military.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
What are your thoughts?
You know, which is precisely Honorable Bajamila's position. You know, there's nothing more. This is, look, we haven't arrived at a state or a place where we allow, you know, state policing or state, you know, military.
And there's still an argument about whether we should allow it.
There's still an argument whether we should allow it, right? But that argument hasn't been, you know, answered in any particular one way or the other. Definitely, the defense will remain the exclusive prerogative and right and purview of the military.
With the whole state police talk.
Exactly, even if the state police are approved. So, to me, I don't see how they say that the House of the House of Assembly, the River State House of Assembly has a right to, create this. The state houses have a right to create laws as long as they're not in contradiction with anything that is at the federal.
Yes.
Right. So once it's in contradiction, then it's no law. Yeah, and this is Rivers again. Come on. They're getting ready for 2019.
And it's a battleground state.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's about
In literal.
In literal
Yeah.
terms,
Literal.
not
Literal.
Literal.
Not the ones with the
ones we see
displays,
in-
not
no,
the
no, no,
CNN
that's
display
true.
boards. No, this is real.
It's a precipice of fisticuffs.
And then we'll see pictures with people's heads hang glue when one person has unfortunately lost his.
As always. It's all part of the theatre.
Let's move on now very quickly to Thisday newspaper, Lagos, as you're listening to Freshly Pressed 91 and Smooth 98.1. The story here says, security experts lament danger of Nigeria's porous airports. And this is a conversation we should have. Nwaji, in this story, the aviation security experts have warned that urgent action must be taken to protect Nigerian airports from being infiltrated by terrorists. An instance was, made to the major problem we have in airports with access by unscrupulous elements. We've heard of stories where certain items were stolen, and then the easy access. And then somebody pointed out a really worrying story, a worrying incident, really that shows a lack of closed circuit television cameras,
The
CCTV,
parameters, yeah.
the parameters of Lagos airports. What are your thoughts on this?
This was absolutely brilliant. This was a very well written, well investigated article, and what I enjoyed about it completely was the fact that they went to get individuals who used to work
Yes.
in these particular facilities. So it's not just some level of assumption or anything else. These are guys who have inside information. So it's the former CSO that used to work at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, and he has come out with some very detailed. And when guys, Lagos, if you have the opportunity, please go and read this article because it really gives some fantastic detail regarding the absolute porous nature of our airports.
From this
And
newspaper.
and it's just absolutely to the point. And you see why this is important is because it should now put the current officials who hold those the positions in the airports on notice.
Yes.
That you guys need to have some level of seriousness with regards to these things. And the point that they brought up is that this thing has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with whether or not the resources are there. It's just a mentality. And it's this mentality of, oh, let's just leave it, this fence is open,
What will happen?
this whole thing,
Yes.
what's the worst that will happen? God did this whole nonsense that we do.
Right.
We need to really focus and be very, very deliberate regarding how we secure these things. If there's a gap with regards to your perimeter fencing, can you get a contractor to come and fix it? It's actually not that difficult or that serious to do. If you don't have CCTVs, could you go and procure some? We have them all over the place that can actually give you 24-hour security. After all, this article indicated that within the airport these things exist, but it's outside. They're talking about only 3 patrol vehicles exist for a square kilometer of space of that nature.
Imagine
It's
that.
madness. And also on top of that, the station chief in charge of those vehicles, if he doesn't have money to fuel the cars, he has to fuel it himself. So guess what? He's not going to fuel it. He's not going to run around. So these are just the small little detailed things that actually do not cost any kind of money with regards to the security consequences that you referred to when we now began the story. So I'm very happy about it. It's something that people need to read and people need to be put on notice. And can we just do or endeavor to do the right thing?
Exactly. Thank you very much, Nwaji, for that detailed analysis. Now moving on to Punch for our final story. The ICC probes farmers herders conflict. The ICC weighed in on this matter, the International Criminal Court. They said they're investigating the farmers herders crisis in the Middle Belt to determine if crimes allegedly committed were within its jurisdiction. They said the basis of which is that they believe that the crimes allegedly committed in this context fall under ICC jurisdiction. What are your thoughts, Nwaji, on this report?
Well, they are crimes against humanity because 1,300 people died and 300,000 people have been displaced. So yes, they do fall under the ICC jurisdiction. And this is something that we need to pay attention to in Nigeria when we now begin to get into these head spaces of what are the reasons why. Is it cultural? Is it tribal? No. These things are economic. There's a lack of access to water. There's a lack of access to grazing opportunities. So what has now happened is that I have been saying this and said it before, that these are environmental circumstances. The Sahara Desert, because of our lack of planning of planting trees in northern Nigeria, especially along the Niger border, has caused the desert to encroach into farmlands in the north. When that now begins to happen, individuals do not have access to graze. I'm talking about the cows now. Do not have access to graze in those particular regions, which is why they're coming down to the Middle Belt. And because of the particular mentality of open land is my land, where people do not respect the fact that individuals own these particular lands, they're going to eat anywhere, which is now what is causing the conflict. What the ICC has now done is to put a gigantic magnifying glass on the silliness of our inability to recognize that this is what the circumstances are.
Especially maybe deliberately exposing the details that have been shrouded in secrecy
Exactly.
regarding the ethnic clashes related
Yes.
to cattle rustling in those
And
areas.
and in addition to that, it's one situation where, because of those situations where those grazings happen, people now set up militias. Back to the point about state security, just
Yes.
people doing whatever they want. The militias are now responding the way that they feel best, and people are getting killed, and they're now blaming it on the Fulani herdsmen and things of that nature. And this is where all the confusion comes in. So Nigeria, do not allow other individuals to expose your mess. Tackle it for yourself. Get in front of the story. Control the narrative. So that way we do not have to have conversations about whether internal things are within view of the ICC or not.
Thank you very much.
Oh dear, lots of messages are coming through. Let's start with those on Twitter. Wiseman11 says Nigerians are holidays. You've just been given an extra day off work, because me, I don't see the handing over ceremonies on May 29th being carried out and people are at work. So you're moving it from list of public holidays. I don't want no water.
And Maxwell Ewodoma says politics is bread and butter in Nigeria. For that reason, our politicians will do anything to get to power, including killing, maiming opposition. And South is the dead political for
Politically, no elections, he says. Wow.
Okay.
Amor Bimbo from Traffic just says, come to representatives, just represent us for once and keep both days as democracy days. Holidays. You see what we're talking about?
Yeah.
You can see.
I don't want to sound irresponsible saying that. But,
Let's just have both, shall we?
Tony Ayo sent in this one from my boy. It says, if Okorocha and Mosun think they are popular and want to be a real godfather like Tinubu, then they should officially decamp to the other party and contest the senatorial seats. Really, man, he says.
Very interesting. Interesting indeed. While Ike says, how is the Rivers neighborhood watch different from that of Lagos State? I'm not sure that they're amassing in bushes to train.
To train and do military drill.
Yes, with weapons.
Tell us
and
which
armor.
one in Lagos State.
Yeah.
And they're not armed.
And they're not armed, yes. I think there's a difference there. Tunji says, Lagos State has their neighborhood police thingy. Why not Rivers? I think we've just talked about that, but thank you.
Bingos says, I wonder how many people in the Southwest will support APC in the forthcoming elections, because PMB made June 12 the Democracy Day, as alluded to by Nwaji. I think their support will be premised on the completion of the Lagos-Ibadan railway line and the expressway.
Right.
It's a good sorry, let me not say anything else.
Oh, Rainmaker, just do your best. It's Friday. Let's feel great. Rainmaker says, if Uncle Femi suddenly woke up and saw that creating a state neighborhood security outfit was illegal, what about these ones in the streets of Lagos? Again, you need to understand. It's about being armed. It's about the reality of the continuous violence in a certain part of the country as well, and understanding that as we're coming up to an election year, a lot of that will be used as an excuse to create independent militia.
Right.
The same issue that we had with Nnamdi Kanu doing the same thing.
Right.
No one is stopping. The LNSE do not have weapons in Lagos.
And more importantly, they work with the police, and they work with Office, and they're an extension of those services. I don't know why people confuse.
That's right.
Exactly.
They're not duplicating the functions of the security forces.
Exactly. They're just ancillary to that. They're just adding to it.
Mm-hmm.
While Irasif Fai says, don't you think we're playing okay, no, I'm not going to read any more of the double standard things. I think we've explained it. Bolahan talking about Ajaokuta, saying the Ajaokuta problem is a microcosm of Nigeria as a whole. A rudderless 40-year-old entity which has yielded no fruit so far, but yet it keeps gulping money every year, and the leaders cannot come to a consensus on the way forward. Confused lot.
And somebody will shout 2019.
It'll be 41 years now.
And Amakochi Chimabi from Oludia Papa Lagos says, nope, not that one. Again, a more Lagos State questions.
And Chika Agina from Marina says, on the approval of June 12th as a Democracy Day, I think the House of Representatives is progressing in error. To start with, the election in question is inconclusive to date. So why are we validating what appears to be inconclusive? The Constitution still upholds May 29th as Democracy Day.
Not exactly correct.
Not, yes. Why is this government bent on scoring cheap
saying.
political goals when there's no political proofs?
Yep. And Hendrik says, posthumous awards and appointments. We need policies that can improve our immediate future. Most of the headlines today aren't encouraging for us, the pre-humous people. All right, on that note, we're officially done Freshly Pressed for this morning. Thank you very much for sending us your messages and your comments. We do appreciate them, and we do try to keep everybody as informed and in the conversation as possible. You can always continue to chat with us on our different social media handles. Our analysts you can find as Big Koofs, that's Tunde Okufi, and at the corporate MC, corporate spelled with a K, that's Nwaji, so you can continue the chat. Valentine and myself will continue to exist on your airwaves, but don't forget you can tweet at us independently as well at Valentine_Ohu on Twitter, and you can tweet at me as at Folu Storms. Lagos, keep listening, because coming up next we'll be talking sports inside the locker room.